Anecdote for Fathers by William Wordsworth, 1770 to 1850. I have a boy of 5 years old. His face is fair and fresh to see. His limbs are cast in beauty's mould, and dearly he loves me. One morn we strolled on our dry walk, our quiet home at full in view, and held such intermittent talk as we are wont to do. My thoughts on former pleasures ran. I thought of Kilve's delightful shore, our pleasant home where spring began, a long, long year before. A day it was when I could bear some fond regrets to entertain, with so much happiness to spare, I could not feel a pain. The green earth echoed to the feet of lambs that bounded through the glade, from shade to sunshine, and as fleet from sunshine back to shade. Birds warbled round me, and each trace of inward sadness had its charm. Kilve, thought I, was a favoured place, and so is Liswyn Farm. My boy beside me tripped so slim and graceful in his rustic dress, and as we talked I questioned him in very idleness. Now tell me, had you rather be, I said, and took him by the arm, on Kilve's smooth shore by the green sea, or here at Liswyn Farm? In careless mood he looked at me, while still I held him by the arm, and said, at Kilve I'd rather be than here at Liswyn Farm. Now, little Edward, say why so? My little Edward, tell me why. I cannot tell, I do not know. Why, this is strange, said I. For here are woods, hills, smooth and warm. There surely must one reason be why you would change sweet Liswyn Farm for Kilve by the green sea. At this my boy hung down his head. He blushed with shame, nor made reply, and 3 times to the child I said, why, Edward, tell me why? He raised his head. There was in sight, it caught his eye, he saw it plain, upon the housetop glittering bright, a broad and gilded vane. Then did the boy his tongue unlock, and eased his mind with this reply, at Kilve there was no weather cock, and that's the reason why. O dearest boy, my heart for better lore would seldom yearn, could I but teach the 100th part of what from thee I learn. Okay, this is a poem by William Wordsworth. William Wordsworth was born in Cumberland in the Lake District, and he was one of the great English romantic poets, together with Samuel Taylor Coleridge. He was poet laureate for Queen Victoria. So let's see, what's this poem about? Well, this poem is about the wisdom of children. It's about the way children see the world, and how we need to remember that children see things in a very different way to us, and we shouldn't ignore them. We should have them as part of our lives, part of our conversations, because they have interesting things to add, and they see the world in a different way. And it's talking about the innocence and wisdom of childhood, and I think also perhaps we see the natural world, the beauty of the natural world as well. So, Anecdote for Fathers. Well, this is about Wordsworth and I guess his son Edward, and they're in a place called Liswyn Farm, which I guess is in Cumberland. And he asks his son if he would rather be here at Liswyn Farm or in down by the coast in Kilve. Kilve, I think, is in Somerset. And the boy says that he'd rather be at Kilve. And the father asks him why, and finally the boy says, because here there is a weather vane, and in Kilve there isn't a weather vane. A weather vane is something that moves around to show the direction of the wind. And clearly, I think the boy likes it more when there is no weather vane, no weathercock, telling the direction of the wind and what's going to happen. So, I have a boy of 5 years old. His face is fair and fresh to see. His limbs are cast in beauty's mould, and dearly he loves me. So, I've got a son. He's a 5-year-old, and he's fresh and beautiful, and he loves me. He loves me very much. One morn we strolled on our dry walk, our quiet home at all full in view, and we held such an intermittent talk as we are wont to do. And one dry morning we went for a walk, and you could see our house, and we were chatting as we do very often when we go for a walk. My thoughts on former pleasures ran. I thought of Kilve's delightful shore, our pleasant home when spring began, a long, long year before. And I was thinking, so that he says, I was thinking of the seaside at Kilve, and Kilve was the place where we'd been living a year ago, last spring. A day it was when I could bear some fond regrets to entertain. With so much happiness to spare, I could not feel a pain. So it was a beautiful day, and this was a day when I could remember beautiful things from the past that I don't have now. And it was such a beautiful day that nothing would make me feel sad. And I think he's thinking about Kilve and the beauty of Kilve, I think. The earth, the green earth echoed to the feet of lambs that bounded through the glade, from shade to sunshine, and as fleet as agile, from sunshine back to shade. So the lambs are running around, so it's clearly late spring. And the lambs are running into the shade, and they're running out of the shade, and the lambs are frisking and enjoying themselves. And nature is clearly, it's a beautiful sunny spring day. Birds warbled, birds sang round me, and each trace of inward sadness had its charm. And sometimes the songs of the birds had a trace of sadness, but that was beautiful as well. It's a day when everything was beautiful. Kilve, thought I, was a favoured place, and so is Liswyn Farm. And he was thinking that the place Kilve, where they had lived, that they had lived last spring, was a beautiful place. And so is the place where they're living now, Liswyn Farm. My boy beside me tripped so slim. Notice to trip is to walk quickly. He walked very, and he's got a very slim build. His build is just perfect. It's not fat, it's not thin. And graceful in his rustic dress, and he looked very elegant in his country clothes. And as we talked, I questioned him in very idleness. And as we were talking, I asked him a question. Now tell me, had you rather be, I said, and took him by the arm, on Kilve's smooth shore by the green sea, or here at Liswyn Farm? So, would you rather be here where we are now at Liswyn Farm, or would you rather be by the sea in Kilve? So I asked him, where would you rather be? In careless mood he looked at me, while still I held him by the arm, and said, at Kilve I'd rather be than here at Liswyn Farm. So he looked at me, and I was holding his arm, his hand, and the boy said, I'd rather be at Kilve than here at Liswyn Farm. Now little Edward, say why so? My little Edward, tell me why. So he's asking why. Tell me, son, why would you rather be at Kilve? And I think the boy replies, I cannot tell. I do not know. I don't know. Why, this is strange, I said. So, and then I said, well, that's strange. For here are woods, hills smooth and warm. There surely must one reason be why you would change sweet Liswyn Farm for Kilve by the green sea. So this is a beautiful place. There are woods, there are smooth hills, it's warm. There's got to be a reason why you would change this place for Kilve by the sea. At this my boy hung down his head. He blushed with shame, nor made reply. So at this moment the boy hung down his head, and he went red with embarrassment, but he didn't say anything. And 3 times to the child I said, why, Edward, tell me why. So I asked him, tell me why, Edward, tell me why, tell me why. He raised his head, he lifted his head. There was in sight, it caught his eye, he saw it plain. Upon the housetop, glittering bright, a broad and gilded vane. So on the top of the house at Liswyn Farm there was a weather vane, and this was shining in the sun. The weather vane moves round according to the wind, and it's one way it tells you the wind direction, and very often the wind direction will tell you the weather. And he's looking at the weather vane. Then did the boy his tongue unlock. So he then said to me, he spoke, he explained, and eased his mind with this reply. And then he felt more relaxed because he could answer, and he wasn't embarrassed about being tongue-tied. At Kilve there was no weathercock, and that's the reason why. So in Kilve there wasn't that thing on the roof, that weather vane, that weathercock on the roof, and that's the reason why I'd rather be there. It almost seems like a very strange reply, but this is the way children see things, that a small detail like that is what makes the difference for them. And yes, they're both beautiful places, but for some reason he doesn't like the weathercock. He finds it spooky, or maybe it makes a noise at night, or who knows. Oh dearest boy, oh dearest boy, my heart. So Wordsworth is touched by the beauty of this answer. For better law would seldom yearn. I could scarcely find a better reason than this between the two. If I could but teach the 100th part of what from thee I learn, and I wish I could teach you the 100th part, 1% of the things that I learn from you. And here it's making him think about the way children think of things. He's receiving the beauty and innocence and wisdom of childhood, and the way that children think about these things. And it shows that children have a different relationship with nature, with the world, than adults, and it's a completely different way of looking at things. So, Anecdote for Fathers by William Wordsworth.